This is Dale Jr., and you're listening to Dirty Mo Radio.
You know, Mike had a pretty successful career. Obviously the champion of the Truck Series before you guys met. And
we call that BA in our household.
BA.
Before Angie, yes.
BA. Okay, we're not going to have no AA.
Hopefully no.
Welcome to Fast Lane Family with Kelley Earnhardt Miller.
Welcome to Fast Lane Family. Today in studio, I have Angie Skinner with me. How are you today, Angie?
Great. This is fun. I like being the person interviewed instead of the one trying to ask the questions all the time.
Sounds good to me. I thought 9 a.m. I wasn't sure do you get your morning started early and get going?
I do.
Yeah.
We normally get up around 7 a.m. Skinner
Okay.
will tell you 6 a.m. I'm like, you lie. I'm like, it's usually 7:30. So no, I like my mornings. I'm a morning girl.
Yeah, coffee, all that good
That's
stuff.
what I look forward to.
Yeah.
Like, first thing I do, cup of coffee, feed the dogs.
Yeah. To me, you just have so much going on and so busy. I'm like, I can't believe she's going to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning doing this.
No, it was good because then it got me going, and then I can
finish the day out.
Exactly.
Yep, good. You know, the whole idea here is for people to get to know you, and I think I'm going to learn some stuff too today. We've certainly been friends and got to know each other through the years. I was just a little kid when, Mike ran for RCR. Well, I say a little kid. I really wasn't just a little kid. I mean, that was in the late 90s.
Hell, I was only 26.
I know, right? So I'm in my 20s too, right? So I always think those are just such kid days, So tell me about that. Tell me about meeting Mike, how that happened. And
oh, Lord. Meeting Mike was kind of funny because I worked for CBS Radio in Columbus, Ohio at the time. Mm-hmm. And NASCAR, this was like in 98, NASCAR was huge, if you remember, the big boom.
Oh, yeah.
Really popular.
Yes.
So it wasn't, radio was not on the FM dial for NASCAR, I should say. Radio, hello. NASCAR wasn't on the radio FM dial. Mostly AM stations. And we started doing some research in our sales department where if we did a NASCAR event, like if you brought in some drivers, you would sell out and sponsors would sponsor booths.
Be all over it.
Exactly. And so I got invited to a race by some drivers who I think were trying to flirt. And then I was thinking money. Oh, I might be able to make money off this. So I went. And then I kind of went, this was kind of fun. Like I started to appreciate the sport. My dad and my brother-in-law loved NASCAR. The only names I knew were your dad's and Richard Petty. And that was it. And so when I went to the race, I had kind of a closed-minded. My brother-in-law basically helped me with one of the first NASCAR events I had to run. And so in exchange, I had to take him with a hot pass.
Sure, right.
Because they offered me a hot pass, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. And he was like, no, you are taking me to that hot pass. So we went, and I realized that we needed to put them on our FM dial. So I started negotiating contracts with MRN and PRN and the Indy Network, and then I walked in the garage, and I felt like part of the family, like the first hour. And I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. I like this atmosphere. And so really I was kind of working, but really I was meeting new friends and trying to possibly move to North Carolina to work more in NASCAR. And at the time, Skinner, I guess, with the help of your dad and Richard Childress, would
I can't imagine.
Yeah, they would tease me constantly. And so apparently Skinner kind of had an eye for me, and I thought he was scary as hell. I was scared of your dad and Mike Skinner, the two guys in the garage. I was like, I don't want to have to ask them for interviews. I don't want to have to talk to them. And someone came up and they said, Skinner really wants to meet you. And I'm like, not my type. Sorry. I just kind of walked away. And my boss said, this Skinner guy's leading the points. Can you get an interview with him? And I was so cocky, Kelley. I was like, oh, hell yeah. He has been hitting on me. No problem. I'll get Mike Skinner. I got this. So when I did the interview, I still was trying to be all kind of pompous or whatever like that. And he did a great job. And I had a girlfriend with me, and he started flirting with her, and it pissed me off. I was like, wait a minute. I'm the one that you've been trying to meet.
For me, right?
Yeah. And so he said, yeah, I did that on purpose because you were a little brat. So, but I know this sounds really stupid. I know people don't believe me. But when I first finally got to meet Mike, and we were outside of the garage, and I was doing the interview, I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy is the funniest, most charming. This is going to be my husband. And Mike said the same thing when he saw me. But then he goes, but I had to wind you down because you thought you were the stuff. And so when he started flirting, he knew what to do. It ticked me off. And then it was like, wait a minute, I want to get to know you better. So we started talking more, kind of secretly because I didn't want to lose my job.
Yeah.
And we talked on the phone for like a month. Before we had our first date. And we had our first date down in Daytona Beach. He had a house down there. And I was like, I do not want to date you at the racetrack. I don't want to go on a date with you because I don't want to know what you're like in your fire suit in competitive mode.
Right.
So he said, okay, after Talladega, meet me down in Florida. And I thought, well, that's neutral ground, because if the date doesn't go well, I can go back to Florida and lay on the beach, and it's not a weekend wasted.
Right.
Always thinking ahead. And so we ended up going on our date, and after
History in the making.
Yeah. Then I was like, all right. I actually went in, gosh, we were pretty fast. Like 2 months later, maybe, I went in to quit my job, and they thought I was moving to Charlotte for another radio job in Charlotte. They're like,
Right.
you're leaving us for NASCAR, aren't you? And I'm like, kind of.
Sort of.
Yeah, and they were like, well, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to run off with a race car driver.
Oh,
Who
my.
knew? And they did not like that. They were like, we were sending you to New York. What are you doing? And I just, at that time in my life, I think I know it sounds crazy. I was only 27, but I had worked so hard.
Yeah.
I put myself through college, and even in high school I always worked because my family didn't really have a whole lot. And so I just wanted to kind of see what love was all about, to be honest with you.
Doesn't sound too crazy.
Yeah.
That's 17 years ago, 16 years ago.
Yes.
So
it worked.
Working, right,
Yes.
right. Your
Thank
feelings,
God.
Yeah, the two of your feelings were right on the money. Still going strong. So, Mike had a pretty successful career for a lot of years in the truck series. Obviously the champion of the truck series before you guys met. And,
We call that BA in our household.
BA.
Before Angie, yes.
BA. Okay, we're not going to have no AA.
Hopefully no.
And was in the Cup Series, and I don't really recall the circumstances. I know he got hurt, had a sub, and I don't really recall the circumstances around him leaving the Cup Series.
He had some really bad accidents at Texas and Atlanta. And said that he probably should have been out of the race car. But he, tough, gruff. I got to get back in there, prove that I'm, really tough. And so he got back in the car. And he said that he thought that pretty much ruined his career in the Sprint Cup Series because he wasn't ready. First of all, he felt that he got pushed up into the Cup Series too fast.
Right.
But the sponsor was there.
Yep.
As we all know, sometimes you got to go with the sponsor. So he did, and he wrecked a lot of cars his rookie year. But then he kind of started getting into his groove. And then Larry McReynolds decided to go do TV. And I think when Larry went to go do TV, Mike got put with a crew chief that just wasn't ready to be a crew chief.
Yeah.
And everything that he had done well just kind of went back downhill.
Yeah.
Then he got hurt again.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you just keep getting hurt. So Lowe's wanted to leave RCR, and obviously they made a good choice with where they went. And at the time, Robbie Gordon had Singular as a sponsor. And so, Richard and Mike kind of sat down, and Mike's like, you know what, Richard, I'm hurt. I'm tore up. I'm not doing you any good. We can't get a sponsor. So it was kind of a sad thing, but it was a good way that they ended the relationship.
A mutual
Mike went to get some surgeries and try to heal up, and then he took on the Kodak ride over at Morgan McClure, thinking that he could fix it over there, and that didn't work too well. So in the middle of all of that, the Kodak deal just was not great sponsor. Loved Morgan McClure, loved them, but I think it was just hard for them to race out of Tennessee. And the motors were just not good. I mean, I think they blew like 38 motors in 1 year.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. So it was kind of funny because I never got to experience Mike in the Truck Series. And when Toyota, we were up in our office, I'll never forget it, on TV, and they said, we're going to go truck racing. Toyota's entering NASCAR. And I looked at Mike and I said, do you want to go truck racing again? Yeah. And he's like, you think that would be cool? I'm like, well, you're miserable. I mean, you're no fun to be around right now. And this could be an opportunity for you to, lighten up your schedule, be competitive again. And he goes, let's see what we can do. And that's what happened. But in the meantime, Jay Fry, Jerry Nadeau was injured, and Jay Fry asked Mike, will you come and help this team out because we're not making races? So it was kind of a cool thing because in the middle of the transition, Mike got to get back in the Sprint Cup Series and be competitive again. So I think that helped his head.
Yeah.
They
helps,
ran well, did some top 5s and top 10s, almost won a couple races, pole positions, and he had fun again in the Cup Series. So that, thank you, Jay Fry, for that.
Helped kind of propel him to
it really
think through
did.
The truck thing again.
It really did. And I think it made him feel good, like, okay, well, I can do this if I have a good ride.
That confidence for a racer is something
moly.
else, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, being the wife of a driver for all these years, and I know myself with LW, and I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit because Mike, has retired. He just had his retirement party, New Year's. I've experienced this with LW just in our short marriage of not competing on the modified and in the modified series, something he's done for such a long time, racing period, whether it was ARCA or Busch before Nationwide and the modified series. And they're hard to deal with after that.
Last year
not
sucked,
racing.
Kelly.
Yeah,
Last year
it's tough.
It was really, really, really tough. Because they identify themselves as competitors.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they identify their manhood, behind the wheel, or everything is identified by their racing.
Right.
And so for Mike, his exit plan kind of got taken from him when he kind of negotiated out of his contract at Randy Moss Motorsports that last season in the trucks. That was supposed to be it. And he didn't really get that opportunity. And I think that really just devastated him.
Right.
He wanted to know, okay, this is the last time I'm going to race here. He never really wanted to announce it, like this is my retirement year, but in his mind, and me
He
too.
knew, everybody, you all knew.
Yes,
right, that
exactly.
This is what it was going to be.
And so just a lot of ups and downs. And I think that the hardest thing for Mike was thinking that there would be something for him afterwards, and there really just wasn't.
Right.
Mike was promised, I'll tell you this, to be honest with you, Mike was promised a job with Toyota. One of the reasons why he went to race for Toyota in the trucks. They said, when you're done racing, you'll have a desk job, I guess whatever you want to call it, with Toyota. And so Mike always thought, well, that's
There's
a good
some life after being in the seat, right?
Yes,
right.
yes. And so he was really pumped up about that. And then when Mike went to them and said, "Okay, I'm ready," they were like, "Oh yeah, we got new people now. Sorry, the people that promised you that are gone." And so he has a lot of resentment right now. Still, sometimes he's getting better.
Yeah.
Like each day, he gets a little bit better. And then a couple other people had promised some things that just didn't come through.
Yeah.
And so it was really sad because he told me, I'm pretty much like the old bull that just got put out to pasture. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, well, I used to be this like real strong race car driver, and everybody called me to make races for him, or, Red Bull, he tutored
Right,
AJ,
yeah,
and
right,
that was a great
right.
deal for him. And he said, and I figured that could be my calling because he loves working with young drivers and he loves going to late model tracks. And so, but nobody would touch him. And I even talked to Mark Martin about this, and Mark said, Angie, everybody wants to think of me as a race car driver. Nobody wants to think that I can do anything else. And I went to Mike and I go, okay, not to make you feel like worse, but even Mark Martin is going
Says
through
this.
this.
Right.
And he's like, woo,
Right.
Mark Martin. And
Right.
so I think that helped Mike because he realized it wasn't just
It's
Mike
not him
Skinner.
personally, right?
Yes. And
Yeah.
and one of the things that I think he realized too is you have to have a degree to get jobs now in the sport. And before it was just like if you worked your butt off,
degree
you got a
was
job.
the experience that you had,
Exactly.
because you worked on race cars since you were a teenager,
And so he
you
was
did
turned
this.
down for a couple of jobs, within the industry because they felt that, well, you don't have a degree. And then it was really hard because the more job offers that Mike didn't get, the more I got. And that was a very strange dynamic
in
because
the
he was
household,
proud
yeah.
of me, the fact that I was willing to go back to work.
Right.
But then I was like, I didn't want to go home and go, oh, so-and-so called me and offered me a job today because then I felt like, oh.
Yeah, it's a tough position.
It was weird.
It's a real
It
tough
was
position.
weird. And it's almost like this year we're on the upswing. Like last year it was like really, really difficult. And with LW because they have the withdrawals.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike says it's like a crack or cocaine addiction. Because
And I sit there and I'm like, but think of all these things we can do. We get
That's
to
me.
go try. Like you guys
Yeah.
like to travel, and I'm like, let's travel with our family and let's do this and think about this, and you're going to get to do this, and it just always goes back to racing because it's just the core of what they know and what they did and their lifeline.
And the other thing I told him too was to be patient because as you know, drivers are the most impatient people ever, and they expect as soon as you go, well, I'm not going to drive anymore, 5 people should call in 5 minutes. They're so excited, and I'm like, that's not the way real life works, my dear.
Yeah, for sure.
And so now things are starting to open up, and now people are starting to call, and we're on the upswing.
Yeah.
So
do you think racing's actually being in the seat of a truck or a race car is kind of he's settled down with that, and it might look like just maybe being in the sport in some capacity, or do you think he wants to get in the seat again?
He wants to get in the seat again, but
Always.
I don't think in NASCAR
in a full-time
sprint
competitive type
situation. I think more fun late dirt
Yeah,
models.
yeah.
So Mike Dillon
Yeah.
this year was like
Kenny
"You need
Wallace and Schrader and all that. Boy, they
Exactly.
look like they have a ball.
That's what he,
know?
and so I told him, I said, Mike, can we fix you back up first? So he had like a rotator cuff surgery. He's got to get the other shoulder next year. I'm like, can we get those fixed first?
Be a brand new man in there at
That's
56.
what I said. Yeah, I said, you'll be like 25, honey. Giddy up. You got a new knee, a new back, some new shoulders.
That's awesome.
He's like, yeah, if I could just have a new head, that would be great. But I think that He's okay with not running anymore, I think, in trucks or Sprint Cup. Your brother actually was a big help with that last year when he had the guts to come out and say,
and about with
the
injury,
concussion,
right?
last year, and say, I'm gonna sit out a few races and heal up. Mike will tell you today that opened up his mind, because Mike has had a lot of bad concussions,
injuries.
And we've been in a doctor's office when the doctor said, how many more hits do you want to take? And we kind of laughed, and he goes, no, I'm serious.
Yeah,
like,
this is real.
Yes. He goes, I can't look at your scan and say you can take 8 more or 5 more.
Yeah.
But
you don't know if the next one's going to be the one, or if it could be 3 or 4 more.
And he goes, but you're not good.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that. And so for some reason, Mike and I came up with 8, and I think we got to 2 after that meeting. And Mike went, I'm probably pretty lucky. He goes, for the wrecks that I've been through, so I probably should just
call this a day and travel and enjoy the grandkids
Exactly.
and that kind of stuff. So Mike has 2 sons. I raced late models, I think, back when they raced. And
Jamie was racing, because he said you kicked his butt.
Uh-oh. and they're involved in racing. You're talking about going to the late model races these days. And is Jamie helping Garrett Jones?
Yes,
And
yes. That's our new little wheelman in the family.
We love Garrett. He's got the greatest story through here of writing a letter to Dale and getting hooked up that way with Dale. And so we keep up with him. And, now his family's moved up here, and they go to school with my girls. And
I didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was wondering what the connection was. I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So he wrote this 3-page handwritten letter to Dale, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. We get tons of stuff like that, and then every now and then one will just kind of pop out at you, and it did. And I shared it with Dale, and he's like, send this kid this, and this, and that's kind of how we started our relationship.
Well, Mike says he's a wheelman.
Yeah, he's
the real. He's only 14.
I know, and
That's
tiny.
crazy.
I know, like 14 and 80 pounds wet. I think just it amazes me, these kids these days, and the way they can handle the cars, and
it's like younger and younger and younger. Doesn't that scare you about your daughter?
Well, yeah. I mean, being 13 and she's about 80 pounds wet as well, and being in the sprint outlaw cars that she's in, she's running in the 500 division this year, which is the division that her dad ran in. And, I say all the old men run in,
I know, but seriously, you're like,
yeah. And she gets out that she's ran 2 races, and each time she's got out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're only 13 and you're just tiny and you're doing this.
Yeah, how are you doing this? Because then when she gets home and you're arguing about, a teenager thing, you're thinking, you shouldn't have the mental capacity to be able to do that.
It's
I think it's in their blood.
It's nuts. So let's talk about Angie. You co-host with Dave Moody on Sirius Radio. Mm-hmm. I'm ready for you to go on vacation again, so I can come in and
I'm ready to go on vacation. Come anytime.
Waiting for my phone call, people.
Right.
You had a broadcasting career. You talked about that and talked about when you met Mike and what you did before that. So I want to know, do you have any good stories of just your show is where fans can call in and talk to you and Dave, and I know you guys get into some crazy arguments and discussions.
Yes, we have some interesting callers sometimes, and some very callers that have lots of opinions.
Yes.
Probably one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with on that show, and we've got pretty good listeners, but every once in a while you'll get an irate listener, and they'll call up and they'll start bashing somebody that I'm friends with. And that's probably the hardest thing that I have to deal with, because and Moody will say, you can't show your I'm like, but they are not going to get on radio and talk about my friend like that. They do have no idea how cool that guy is or how nice he is. And it's so funny because I'll listen, but I'll usually try to get my dig in back
somehow.
And say, okay, I heard you out, but, and it's funny because I've had a couple of drivers and even drivers' moms come up to me and go, thank you so much. Thank you for sticking up for my son or my daughter or whatever like that. And so, I always tell Moody, I'm like, I'm not, and I tell my friends in racing, I'm not the media, even though I'm on there.
On that show,
I'm not looking to break news stories. I'm
Right.
not looking to really do that. Now, if I hear stuff in the garage and I think it's okay to share, I'll usually share that with our producer, or I'll even text Moody, and because I think he's a great writer, and I'll say, hey, I think this deserves an article.
Right.
So I'll try to do things like that. But I like my position as being more like the fun person on the show. I like to be able to be informative and give a side, maybe a more personal side
Right.
from inside the driver owner lot versus the person that's in the media center, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think people want you to share your true emotions and your true spirit and what you really believe in. And in a position like yours on that show, it's kind of a fine line that you have to walk. I subbed for you one day, and Elliott Sadler was a weekly guest, and it so happened to be after one of the races that he and Regan, which I think they tangled a few times.
Oh, yes.
It was, I don't know, Wednesday or something after one of those races. I'm thinking to myself, oh, crap, I've got to talk about this. And, being the car owner, and then Elliott's going to tell his side. And I call Regan up. I'm like, hey, give me some more information here so I can
tell me exactly what happened.
Tell me what happened, because I'm going to have to either stick up for you or call you a dumbass. So tell me what's going on here.
Exactly. And that's what's kind of hard, because sometimes, because there are some people in the garage that I admire, crew chiefs and drivers and people that work on the team, and if I feel like they've made a mistake, I really need to be honest about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because
That's
it's
hard.
my opinion.
Yeah, right.
And so I try to do that without ticking them off.
Right.
I think one time I made a slip up. I said, I think Clint Boyer's hilarious. And we were interviewing him, and I was just, because Clint makes you feel all loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
And I said, come on, Clint, buckle up. You're my man, or something like that. And Clint goes, whoa, I'm your man? And Skinner heard that. And I got home, and he goes,
that was
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't mean it like my man, like you're my man. But
Right.
I was just being funny, like,
Right.
I enjoy watching you race.
Right.
And, you
right.
got to get with it. And yeah, that took a few weeks to get over. That was uncomfortable. And then anytime, like, we'd have to talk about Clint Boyer, I'd be like, oh God, Mike's going to think I'm, I'm thinking, no, I'm not hot after Clint Boyer.
Right.
I mean, I think he's funny, but
right,
no.
Right. I know. I did that once early in my relationship with LW about Tim McGraw, and I said something about how hot and sexy Tim McGraw was, and he was like, really?
Yeah, but why? But if you're in the garage, they'll look at all the girls with the nice racks and the nice booties, and they'll be like, oh, she's so hot. And I'm thinking, but if I make one comment about a man, then all of a sudden, you're not my man anymore. So yeah, I've learned to just not say things like that.
Oh, that's too funny. So tell me about working with Ryan. You've been doing that for about a year now, Ryan Newman, and I get to see all these pictures of these animals that get to sit on your desk.
I know, that's the coolest part of the job.
Parrots and.
I took the job because of Christy. No,
I don't blame you there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Ryan.
No, well, no, we all know Ryan. He can be a ball of fun. No, actually, Ryan can be.
He
a
can.
lot of
He
fun.
is really funny when he.
Yes,
yeah,
when he's not
in that mode.
Exactly.
When he's not really serious.
Exactly. And it's funny because I'm loosey goosey, kind of goofy, and every once in a while I'll try to be funny with him, and he'll be like, no, that's not funny. I'm like,
it takes a lot for his sense of humor.
Exactly.
Like, you've really got to
be
funny.
Well, he is so smart. He likes to challenge you,
Yes.
and I don't want to be challenged all the time. And so it's funny because he gets a kick out of it because he knows he's getting on my goat.
Yeah.
But that was a cool thing for me to get to do, something I'd never went after. Actually, Ryan and Chrissy called one day and said, do you think you and Mike would want to come to have lunch? And I figured it was for Rescue Ranch because I had done a lot of fundraising, and we had our own foundation down in Daytona Beach for years. And so I thought, oh, I bet Chrissy wants me to ask or just kind of volunteer or ask a few questions about fundraising. So we went, and she was like, well, we're wondering if you want to manage Ryan. And I'm like, is there like a camera someplace? Are y'all goofing out? Like, what?
April Fools?
Yeah,
What's going on?
exactly. And I managed Mike for pretty much since about a year after we got together because his manager at the time was embezzling money, which was not a good thing. So we like to keep it in the family. You understand that,
yes.
so you can trust your family.
Yes.
And so I managed Mike for years, but it was different because he was my husband. I think it was harder, actually, to manage Mike as my husband than to manage Ryan. So when they asked if I wanted to do it, I thought, this is kind of cool because it's a way for me to keep current in the garage, to meet a lot more people, a whole different amount of sponsors because Ryan had a whole different group of people that he's worked with for years. And so, and then the aspect of the Rescue Ranch was fun. So even though I work for the motorsports side, I get to do
that involvement.
Rescue Ranch work as well.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun, but I'm getting tired. I'm 41 now, and I've realized that it's like, well, actually I'll be 42 this month. Oh my God, I just realized that. So working all these jobs and then trying to still
Travel
be
and
super
have
wife
fun
and be it's
tough.
It is tough. I'm a lot more tired than I used to
It's
be.
really tough. You brought up managing Mike and how you thought maybe in some aspects that was harder than what you do with Ryan, and it's interesting that you say that because I feel like there's very challenging things about managing Dale, but then I think there's very easy things about it because I really in many cases with mine and Dale's relationship, I don't have to pick up the phone and ask him sometimes. You know, I can make the decision and know that that's the decision that he would be comfortable with. And, there's lots of things that we do talk about, and there's lots of things that we don't necessarily talk about. And I've been asked through the years, over the last 5 or 7 years, have you ever thought about managing other drivers and new kids that are coming in the sport? And I've just thought really hard about that and what it would be like, and could I do that? Because the family aspect between Dale and I makes it very comfortable, and you know that you're still going to be liked and loved even if you make a bad decision or if something doesn't work out. And that's a fear on the other side of it that I have. What if I tell them the wrong thing, or what if I advise them the wrong thing and it doesn't work out?
I do, for that same reason. Right. Because with Mike, the hardest part of Mike, and I bet you go through this with Dale because you love your brother and I loved my husband, when someone tells you no,
yeah,
I'm like, what do you mean?
I know you always want to take it personal.
He is fantastic. Why did you think that? And it's funny. And then you'll go through a lull where maybe you don't sell anything or you don't close a deal in so many months, and then they come into your office and they're like, well, what are you doing? Are you not doing anything? What's wrong with you? And I never wanted to tell Mike, well, I got 50 no's.
Right.
I only want to tell you about the yeses.
Right.
But in all reality, you get 100 no's to every one yes. Mm-hmm. And so that was always hard for me to tell Mike until he would then tell me that I sucked or something. Right. And I'd go, well, let me tell you, I got
how hard this is.
Yeah, let me show you all these notes. Right. Well, I would never do that with Ryan. Right. I could get away with it with Mike.
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of cool.
Awesome. Well, you talked about, all these job offers that you get and all these things that you're doing. When are you going to retire? When are you going to call it a day?
I thought I retired at 30, but when Mike and I met, I'll never forget, he said, I'll take care of the first 10, and then you take care of the last 10. And I went, I kind of laughed about it. I'm like, oh,
and
crap.
here you are.
He was kind of for real about that. And so we joke about that now. So I would like to be done in about 8 to 10 years if I could, maybe sooner. Yeah. I don't know if I maybe start a business down in Daytona Beach, because I think we're going to end up back in Daytona. That's home for Mike and Angie. Yeah. We feel more at home there. So I always want to be doing something, because I'm too hyper type A to not do anything. But I would be lying to you if I told you that I don't miss, I call it my cup wife days or my truck wife days, when I could run my own foundation and leisurely write a book here and there.
Right. Do what you wanted to do on your terms,
on my
when
terms.
you wanted to do it. Right.
That's
exactly.
the thing. So I wouldn't mind doing that again sometime soon. But if we're going on the whole 10-10 philosophy, Mike really did about 15. So
maybe you only have 5.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yes. And I'm on, year 3 or 4 of that?
Yeah. So you'll be done soon.
I'll be done soon, hopefully.
So tell me, if you're going back to Florida one day, you're keeping your place in the North Carolina mountains, right?
Yes. Yes. That's on the
beautiful
we've got the place in Statesville for sale, but the goal is to keep the North Carolina mountain lot, the RV, my trailer park.
Yeah, your trailer park lot.
Trailer park lot up in the mountains. That's the one thing that Mike and I, when he started to downsize, that's why I said I need to be a driver consultant for how you downsize from cup, cup lifestyle down to normality.
How you go down the mountain.
Exactly. How do you get down the mountain and still have fun and be okay with it? And so Mike and I every year would sit down and go, okay, what's the one thing we don't want to get rid of? I'm like, get rid of the airplane. I don't really care about the airplane. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. And Mike's like, wine. I'm going to buy my wine. and then we joked, but the motor coach was the one thing that we felt
that you wanted to keep,
that we enjoyed together.
And you can
we
use
want
that
to travel
for so long,
too.
right? Exactly.
That's like a goal, just to go all around the United States in it. Actually, Mike, it's kind of funny. He wants to go and park some of those cool spots at some of the racetracks where you park up high above the track. Mm-hmm. He's like, I want one of them primo spots where I can go to the race and just hang out with the race fans. Drink beer, drink wine, cook out, watch the race, and
you got to take that to some cool places. You've seen you parked on the beach and hanging out with your friends and all kinds of stuff.
That was the coolest thing about the truck series because I told Mike, I'm like, well, we don't have to fly everywhere. Why don't we just ride in the bus? We only have 20 races.
Yeah.
We're not in a hurry.
Yeah,
what
right.
Are we doing?
Exactly.
That was probably the best time racing we ever had.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining me and letting my fans of the podcast get to know Angie and get to know Mike.
It was fun.
Some history, and I hope that I can call on you again one day.
Absolutely.
In your retirement years.
I'm
up
always
here from Florida.
Chit-chatting and talking, that's for sure.
No way. No way.
It's easy to sit down with you.
All right. Well, thanks again. All right, now it's time for Ask Kelley, and remember that you can submit your questions on Twitter at my account, Earnhardt Kelley, and make sure you use the hashtag #AskKelley.
Okay, here we go. At Tammy D11 wants to know, if you could race Dale's car at any NASCAR track, which race would you pick?
Great question, Tammy. Let's see. I think I would probably pick Bristol. Just because it seems fun. It seems like you can, the idea of racing really hard and door to door and passing just seems fun at Bristol. Some of the other tracks I think are more mental races, and that's really to me more of a physical race. So I think that'd be fun.
At Cindy Moberly or Mobley, we're not sure, wants to know where you went to college. We brought it up in some past shows.
Another good question. I graduated high school in June of 1990. I immediately went to Wilmington, UNC Wilmington. In June, I started summer school right after I graduated high school. I spent 3 years there, and I might have told this story, but my dad, I never came home because I worked in retail, and so my dad sent me flowers, and on the card it said, "It's been so long since I've seen you, I've almost forgotten what you look like." And that made me sad. So he said, "Look, if you come home, you can race and get your own apartment." I said, "Deal." And I finished up at UNC Charlotte in 1995.
At NASCAR Jason, how did Junior Motorsports come about, and did you have the same role in the beginning as what you do now?
Junior Motorsports was formed in 1999 really as just a way to bring Dale's business interests together. At the time he was driving for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, so much like the management arm of Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, Junior Motorsports was started to kind of facilitate that role for Dale. I started working here in August of 2001. And my role here at that time, we had, 3 or 4 employees, and I just kind of started overseeing contract management and different roles within the business. Really kind of started bringing those roles from Dale Earnhardt Incorporated into Junior Motorsports because they were handled at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated prior to that. And then we started racing in the Nationwide Series in 2006, and so my role has definitely evolved. But I've been the general manager since day one. It's just that my responsibilities today are much greater than they were back then.
At Jimmy Sindel, his daughter is 13 and wants to start racing. He wants to know if karts are a good place for her to start or where she should go.
I think any kind of racing that the kids can do, whether it's go-karts or bandoleros, legend cars, there's lots of different opportunities, quarter midgets for kids to do, really just gets them the skill set of the foundational things that they need that relate to stock car racing later or some other form of racing that they may want to do. So I think any place like that's a great place to start. As you guys know, my daughter Carson runs the karts, and although it's different sliding around on dirt and what she might move up to one day in a stock car, is certainly given her the fundamentals of what she needs to know in terms of racing alongside people, restarts, passing, the endurance of the race itself, and all kind of things like that. So any kind of racing like that is a good place to get started. All right, so my final thoughts with Angie. We've changed this up a little bit from what my listeners are used to. So here we go. Pizza or pasta?
Pasta.
Beer or wine? I know the answer to this one.
Wine. I do drink beer, though. I do like cold beer, but wine, priority.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Tundra.
That's right. And Ella.
Cook or eat out?
Cook.
Love
Definitely,
to cook.
yeah, I like
Awesome.
to cook.
Yoga or sweating to the oldies?
Yoga.
Motorhome or house? I know that one
Motorhome.
too. I could have pegged all those
I
for
know,
you.
You know me too well.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for listening to Fastlane Family, and hope you'll join us again next week.
Thanks for listening to Dirty Mo Radio.